It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Folks, we love to do these segments we call our young conservative segments, where we try to find somebody out there who's part of the younger generation that actually aligns on the political right. I want you to welcome to the program for the first time, Mr. Joey Williams joins us. Joey, it's nice to have you on the program, sir.
Thanks so much, Paul. It's an honor to be part of your program.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about yourself. I understand you have a degree in history and also a law degree. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I just recently graduated from the University of Arkansas School of Law last May, and I have a history degree from Hendrix College in Conway.
Wow, that's fantastic. So tell us a little bit about, also you're a magician, right? Tell us about that.
Oh, yeah. So I kind of grew up doing magic and performing all over the country, performing in many different venues, and that actually helped me go through college and helped me pay for college and law school as well. So I actually paid for Hendrix every summer. I jump on a ship and do some magic, abroad, and did a lot of big corporate events, and that's how I paid for school. That was my ticket to school and graduate school.
Wow, that's so cool that you're an entertainer, and so talk about being a conservative. How did you come to have a conservative-minded worldview?
Well, sure. I have to give a lot of credit to my grandmother. She's my whole family's from the East Coast, and my great-grandfather, moved out to this part of the country from New Jersey many, many years ago. He had 9 kids, my grandmother included, and one by one they moved closer to him in central Arkansas, BB, Arkansas area, White County. And growing up around my grandmother, when I moved to Arkansas, she was very influential. She always asked me to really think about things thoroughly. She never forced me to think about her ideologies or her worldview, which was very conservative. But she always challenged me on, just common sense issues. Is this right? Is this wrong? And that really shaped my view of conservatism. I like to talk about conservatism not as an ideology, because it's not. Liberalism is an ideology. Conservatism is simply based off of history and tradition. Looking at what we did in the past, we look towards the past to learn about the future. So that's kind of my view on the subject of conservatism.
So elaborate on that, if you don't mind. You have a degree in history, so how does that degree in history influence your opinions about the events of today?
Sure. I like to call myself a paleo-conservative. I believe, much like our founders did, in equality and liberty and pure freedom. When government grows, history is very clear. When government grows, liberty shrink. And that's always been the case since recorded history. And, that history degree of understanding really comes into play when we talk about forms of governments and forms of how government works and what its roles are, especially in this country compared to other countries.
Yeah, definitely. Let me ask you this: when you were in college, did you ever kind of battle any liberal bias when it came to faculty?
Oh, you bet. Hey, I have the most respect for Hendrix College, and I'm still very well attached to it. But I learned so much from having these conversations with faculty and other students. Iron sharpens iron, and I've always believed that. And having those battles really allowed myself to search what I really believe in, and it did instill some confidence in these ideologies. And I remember, for example, my last paper at Hendrix. I took a class called Communism, Fascism, and Democracy. And my last paper was entitled The Man Who Beat Communism. And it was about Ronald Reagan, Ronaldus Magnus.
Yes.
And I had to defend this paper with some professors. And they all made fun of me, but in the end, they said, Joey, well done. You defended your argument to the T. You did very well. We're very proud of you. And that really opened up my eyes. We're not going to agree on everything. I think it's very important to find that common denominator that we can agree on. We all want what's best for people in the country. We want people to live their fullest lives to their full potential. and so it helped. It really opened up my eyes. I made a lot of good friends, and a lot of liberal friends. We don't agree politically, but we can respect each other.
Yeah, absolutely. So then you go from Hendrix, you go to law school. I talked to some it's no secret that being a conservative and being an attorney that's not a common thing. It's more common to be a progressive or a liberal. So how was that experience in terms of, you have this historical foundation, about the Constitution, but correct me if I'm wrong, but in law school they teach mostly case law and less about the Constitution. Is that correct?
They do. I mean, it's a mix of it's a well mix of both. I mean, we do take constitutional law. The Constitution. There's different theories about the Constitution. Law school teaches all these different types of theories. What you believe in, strict constructionalist versus a very liberal interpretation. And it was really amazing to me reading these opinions with judicial views, such as the Supreme Court, for example. I did not know much about the liberal aspects of, say, Ruth Bader Ginsburg or some of the other liberal justices. But in law school, when you start reading these opinions, there's almost a third or fourth dimension, and it's no longer left or right, conservative or liberal. I think that each justice has their own view on the world, and really we flesh these out in class. And so you're right. I mean, there's not a real move towards the history and traditions, more of case law and how to what we call the lawyer shuffle, right? You argue one argument. If that doesn't work, you go down the line until you win. And it was a challenge for me, especially being a history student. And talking about America and American exceptionalism is almost a negative thing. American exceptionalism is not something that we say we're better than everyone else. We're simply the exception to the rule of history. Being a historian first, I realized this, and I could talk to the subject. And a lot of other students didn't like that. And I was part of the Federalist Society, and we were able to bring in some great speakers about the Second Amendment and the importance of it, and what lawyers are doing to defend the Second Amendment, for example. So the law school experience was very fulfilling. Much like Hendrix, I was able to have great discussions with staff and professors, and as well as other students around me.
Do you think the adverse reaction from people that are our age? How old are you, Joey?
I'm 33.
Okay, so I'm 34. I think I'm 34. Okay. Do you think the people around our generation, their adverse reaction when you say things like American exceptionalism is because they don't know how to reconcile injustice? It's almost like they're in a pursuit of perfection, and they see all these benefits that America has, and they can't really reconcile the fact that there are no perfect people. There are people who do good things in history, and we have the fruits of that, but those people also do bad things sometimes. Is that something that they're having trouble reconciling?
I think so, and that's a really great point. I think it all comes down to education. It seems nowadays in school, I mean, you're around my age, and I can kind of pinpoint when this education gap started to occur, probably around the year 2000, the 2000 election. And I tell you, I think that a lot of, we have this idea that America is to blame type of theory. It's America's fault. We have what we have today because we've stolen it. We've taken it unjustly from the world, which is the exact opposite. And I think that if you study history, and if you understand history and what American exceptionalism is all about, like I mentioned before, the exception to the rule of history, it's very clear that other countries have a long history of poverty, of slavery, of war. We're only close to 300 years old, and we have yet to experience some of that terrible train of events that other countries have experienced. And we have our scars, and I think it's very important to identify those scars in history.
Wow.
But I mean, you talk about what America has done to cure that, and what we've done for the world, over and over again. And I think that it's just a very popular view to say, America is to blame for everything. another thing in school, I noticed that, some of the great people in American history have been villainized. They call them the robber barons, for example. J.P. Morgan and Rockefeller and Andrew Carnegie. These people were the guys with mustaches, like on the front of a Monopoly box. They're stealing all the money from the entire world. But look what these people did. If you take a look at, say, Rockefeller, for example, we got oil before he came around. You know where we got oil from? Wales. And that was very, very, very expensive. And literally, because of Rockefeller and the Standardized Oil Company, we were able to bring oil to every household around the world and literally bring light to the world. People stayed up late. They were able to read. Later on, when the sun went down, they were able to afford light. And what's the price for that? I mean, a great man did a great thing. Andrew Carnegie, for example, it was very expensive to ship things across the country before he created his steel industry. And he was able to bring transportation costs down dramatically, and that improved the life of everyone in the country and mostly everyone in the world because he was able to do that. So I think you have this view that these people, evil capitalism, evil capitalists, take advantage of other people, which is not the case. And I think that's the big gap that a lot of students are missing when they study history.
Yeah, I think you're
study,
right.
Independence.
Yeah, and I really think, they might not realize it, but I think they really have a desire for things to be perfect in a way, and that's maybe we need to teach that men are not perfect. I mean, I know they would know that, but you know what I mean? Let's apply it and see where we are. We're talking with Joey Williams. This is our Young Conservative segment. Joey's a magician. That's how he paid his way through school, got a history degree, got a law degree. So, Joey, real quick, let's kind of move on to modern-day politics. How do you see politics right now in America? We have President Donald Trump. We have the left in this country that, is not a fan. We also have we're in the midst of a government shutdown. What are your thoughts right now on where we are?
Well, Paul, it's a great question. I think that we elected this president for a reason. We elected Donald Trump for a reason to shake things up in Washington. I think people were tired of politics as usual. People were tired of, quote-unquote, the swamp. And, President Trump was a reaction to our last president, President Barack Obama. It scared a lot of people. His ideologies, his theories about how America is to play on the world stage. I had the opportunity to read both books, Audacity of Hope and Dreams of My Father, when Obama announced his candidacy. And I was very concerned because for the first time we had a leader that didn't believe in this idea of American exceptionalism, that really believed that the world, America has stolen from the world and it's become great because of its evils, quote unquote. And Donald Trump was a reaction to that. And I think we elected Donald Trump to go to Washington to shake things up, and that's exactly what he's doing. And I feel. I personally feel bad for people that aren't being paid because of the shutdown. But, in the private sector, we have our own risks as well. I worry about whether or not I'm going to have a job tomorrow. I worry about whether, what I'm going to do with my life next year, next month. So it's just this idea of risk is what makes humans so unique. This uncertainty makes us better people, the human condition. So I think right now that the politics itself is very divided. I think most people would agree with me there. But Donald Trump is doing exactly what he was elected to do, and I'm a big supporter of him.
Yeah, I am too, and I wasn't in the primary. Were you a big supporter of his in the primary?
At first I wasn't because it's Donald Trump, right? People were still surprised that he was running,
yeah.
But some of those debates he really killed it. He really did a great job, and he brought out great points. And one of my favorite points was, he said, the people in the East, especially minorities, are voting Democrat for 60 years because you're still in the same position where you were 60 years ago. Give me a shot. Let me show you that I can help. And, the proof and the facts are stubborn things, right?
Yep.
You have the lowest unemployment rate with minorities, African Americans, Hispanics. And it's been wonderful. More jobs are coming back to America because of his policies, directly because of his policies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but you have a media that kind of drowns all that out. And, like I said, facts are stubborn things. You talk to people around campuses, you talk to people that are liberals themselves, they don't want to believe any of that. And, there's nothing to do but just show them the facts. And I think he's done a great job so far, and he's doing what he was sent there to do.
Well, I'm pleasantly surprised, and I'm a supporter of his as well. And I just can't. I'm not getting tired of winning yet. I'll tell you that much. But he really has just totally blown past my expectations of actually doing what he said he was going to do. A lot of people didn't know if he was going to actually do what he said he was going to do. He clearly is. And anyway, Joey Williams, it is a pleasure to meet you, sir. I really appreciate your. I appreciate your thoughts and the way you articulate them, and I really think it's fantastic that you're a young conservative and an attorney, and there's hope for the world out there, folks. Joey, I'll give you the last word, sir.
Well, Paul, thank you so much for having me on your program. It's been a tremendous honor, and you know what? It's going to be an interesting election, and I look forward to maybe talking to you again in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to have you on again, Joey. So I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Paul.
All right, thank you.